Hey everyone, and welcome to the Room 11 podcast, a show designed to help myself and others improve the conversation around grief, growth, and resilience, and hopefully help let those suffering their grief in silence that they're not alone. Today, I spoke with Gavin Blue, a professional photographer and co-founder of Heartfelt. After losing their daughter Alexandra in 2006, Gavin used that experience to help create Heartfelt. We talked about his journey into photography, from his early fascination with capturing images to choosing his passion after finishing school and turning it into a successful career in commercial and editorial photography, and leading into creating Heartfelt. We explored how personal loss became the catalyst for meaningful work, how photography can provide families with lasting memories, and how a community of over 300 volunteers has grown around this mission. It's a conversation about grief, yes, but it's also about purpose and the ways we turn our hardest experiences into something that helps others. I hope you're ready. Let's get into it.
So what's your background? Did I ask you before? Were you a school teacher
Uh,
or something, or?
I spent 12 years in the hotel industry. I was a facilities sort of management space, and
Yep.
then I transitioned to travel because that was sort of the area that I was going in, and then COVID happened, and that all went up
Yeah.
in the air. So I started working in educational technology and started helping deliver coding programs to kids across Australia and stuff,
Oh,
and
okay. Well,
yeah, so it's a bit of a bit all over the place, and then
yeah.
but this is sort of so Room 11 is sort of more my focus now. It's grief literacy and resilience. So sharing my story on grief, helping other people sort of manage their own,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's basically what I'm striving to do now.
No, and is it a passion project or is it work? Is it
Yeah, so it's basically this is my full-time job now.
yep.
Um, it's if it would be great if it paid a full-time wage, but we do what we can. Um, but yeah, so it's this and just a fundraising campaign for the scooter stuff, which is hopefully it's starting to take shape a lot more now since we spoke a couple weeks ago. So it's
Yeah, sure.
yeah, it's coming together, and yeah, just using that sort of momentum to keep sort of delivering sort of grief literacy workshops and stuff to businesses, help them sort of better manage their staff that come in
Yeah.
back to work from you know losing someone important to them. And
Yeah, of course.
yeah, so um, I think first off, I just want to start off that like thanks to you um, and the Heartfelt team for the stuff that you guys do and the stuff that you've done for me personally and my wife. Like this is a heartfelt photo that we have here. We've got
Have a look.
so that's
Yeah,
my
beautiful.
wife and I and Billy, and
Yep.
she'd be turning 6 in next Friday, I think. So yeah, it's hard to believe it's been 6 years, but it's it's sort of it feels like a long time ago, but it also feels like yesterday.
Yeah.
Um,
I,
uh,
s- I saw a friend posted that was 17 years ago today for them so that we that I
mm,
did the photo. So, it's a long it's fast and a long time and it seems like yesterday as well.
yeah, it's one of those things that just never sort of softens. It never goes away. It's
Yeah.
always sort of just lingering with you, and I think that's one of the things that a lot of people don't really grasp, that it's something that can
Yeah.
take hold for so long, and most cases it's always there. So
Yeah.
um, and that's why I think it's so important the work that you guys are doing, having those moments to cherish. There's so many families that I've spoken to, like Michelle McCraner, for instance. She was on the podcast, and she barely remembers holding her daughter Celeste. They didn't have any photos. It was just 15 minutes in and out, and that was it. And
Yeah.
that was 24 years ago. It's
Yeah.
just so yeah. But so I think I think I'll also to start off with, so what was it that got you into photography in the first place? So you've been doing this since when you were at school and just a
I, al-
passion?
I always loved it. I remember taking photographs of the guinea pigs when I was a kid and waiting for the shadow to come across the cage to make it a bit more interesting, and even set up these dynamic shots of Big Jim and the $6 million man dolls in a jeep, in a garden with agapanthus looking like they're going to the jungle. And I just always loved it. And I was at a school where they only offered photography in year seven, and I always regretted not doing it. So in year 10, I worked on my parents for 3 months, 4 months, to have me leave Canberra Grammar, which, I loved the school, it was great, but I just missed photography, to go to Narrabundah College in Canberra, which had a great photography course, but is also polar opposite to Canberra Grammar with the rules and the structures and the uniforms. And Narrabundah was very loose and known as very creative, and punishment was expulsion or bad marks. Um,
Oh,
but and I had to kind of deal with mum and dad, keep up the sciences,
mm.
and the subjects, and then keep the options open for the year 12. So I did that. I did the photography course there, and got into Sydney Uni to do engineering, as well as Melbourne RMIT to do photography, and chose. And it was lovely. I mean, looking back, I had no. It was quite wise to be that driven for something that you
Mm.
wanted to do for a 15-year-old. It's pretty amazing, I thought in hindsight. But also very trusting of my parents. And they just said years later that they thought it'd go bad if they didn't let me go. So,
Oh yeah.
but it was also funny. I met my cousins up in Sydney, and I got the names wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was Timmy, Tommy, and Terry, and they were all engineers. And I was up in Sydney collecting a photography award for the school Sydney Morning Herald School's photography prize. And I was on a high. I was there with my girlfriend, and I just thought engineering looks boring. Photography sounds like more fun, and shows like shows like that.
Yeah, it's it's so refreshing to hear that, like that you chose you didn't take the
The
safe sort
sensible,
of
yeah,
this, like the one where they go, oh, do that, then you'll have something to fall back on. You can do photography when you finish whatever you were
yeah,
doing.
yeah,
And I've had those conversations with my parents when I was in high school and stuff, and I was like, but I did that. I went the trade route, tried to learn a trade. I didn't end up sticking with an apprenticeship. I just couldn't do it. But it was
yeah.
but you try and you appease them. You try and make sure that they know that you're safe. You've got a safety net to fall back on. And
And
but yeah,
and
that's it's admirable.
and our photography teacher was incredible. He was this Hungarian guy who was escaped Hungary, survived the Cyclone Tracy in Darwin in a bathtub, and he just built his own E6 processing machine. But he inspired the kids to be there before school, be there at lunchtime, be there after school, and go the extra yards, to the point where RMIT at the time was the best commercial photography course in Australia. And it's usually like 1,000, 2,000 people apply for 40 spots, but he always got one or two students in each year. So then the uni invited him down to find out what he was doing, to get to know him a bit better. But it was so inspiring. It was really lovely.
Mm. Uh,
And I always remember one thing he said was, no one sees the world like you see it. To each kid, because
mm.
everyone's got the unique perspective. And I was always a dud in English. I was in the class with all the guys with nicotine patches and the toughs. And they only studied one novel all year. So I thought I was terrible in English. But I thought, showing with photography is this one way I can show people how I see things and express myself in my world freely.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's such an interesting thing about perspective. It gives you that sort of first-hand knowledge of, like, everyone has a different perspective about the way they see the world, and
Yeah,
that through the camera, the lens is like, you'll give someone two people standing next to each other, say, take a photo of that, and the two photos will be different
yeah.
just because of the way that they see it. And I think that's really cool. And that did you always start out as like a freelance photographer and after finishing
Yeah,
up, or?
I assisted after it was a 3-year course, and I assisted for 3 years, and I was with a photographer, Andrew Craig, for 3 years, who let me make mistakes, and as long as I learned, he kept me on, which was which was good. But it got to the point where I had jobs in Europe, and he sent me there a week early, meet the clients, find locations, and then pick him up from an airport a week later. So it was lovely having that level of trust and
Mm.
seeing a variety of work, so I could work out what I wanted to do too. Like I always thought pure photography was in the studio, but it drives me nuts. I need something to react to. I'm so much better going to location. My favorite work was for Sunday Life magazine and Good Weekend, where there's a story. You go meet someone, you kind of react to the environment, you sort of do a photo that echoes the story. And because it's
Mm.
short life, it's only that 1 week lifespan in the magazine, there's a lot of freedom to do whatever you like and take some risks. And
Yeah.
I just love that. It was my favorite sort of work.
So it sounds like the having a story to go with the photo is more sort of meaningful to you. Like there needs to be something
Yeah,
behind
yeah.
that image. I think, yeah.
Like when I was in uni, I did a series on controversial people. Like I did, I just rang up and I got permission to photograph the South African ambassador in the middle of apartheid.
Oh wow.
There was a guy called Bruce Ruxton who was head of the RSL in Victoria, who was always on the news, with these big rants about various things. Um, Laurie Levy, the Andy Duck shooting guy, Margaret Ty, she was the figurehead of this pro-life movement. And I just thought, oh, anybody, is there some sort of controversy? I thought, oh, I'll find them and take their photo.
That sounds like fun. That sounds
Yeah, it
like
was. It
it'd
was.
keep things interesting. Yeah.
I mean, with the South African ambassador, they had these white columns, and I just had him leaning sneakily, just looking around the white columns. So I was like, white, 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 him.
Hey everyone, we'll get back to the show in a second, but I just want to let you know that on November 29 and 30, I'll be live streaming me riding a push scooter for over 270 kilometers around Calder Park Raceway, breaking a Guinness World Record in the process. It's called Scooting for Hope, and its purpose is to raise $100,000 for the Pregnancy After Loss service at the Royal Women's Hospital here in Melbourne, a service that helped save our second daughter's life after we tragically lost our first, Billy. That clinic is now at risk of being shut down due to a lack of funding. So this is about more than just a record. It's about keeping a vital service alive for other families walking the exact same path. If you'd like to help, there are a couple of simple things you can do. Donate if you can. The link's in the show notes and on all Room 11 socials. Or even just share, like, comment, and follow. The more engagement we get on our channels and this podcast, the more visibility we have and the better chance we have of securing funds from the big corporates. Every bit of momentum helps. So thank you for being here. Now let's get back to the show. What was it like going through the transition from like film to digital? Do you prefer film or digital now?
I did digital's incredible. It's just so incredible. So much better than film these days. Like I remember my first job shooting digital was I was going around New South Wales taking photos of these award winners for the Work Cover Awards, and I was in my motel at night using a dial-up line to send them off to Sydney for the awards, but shooting Saturday, Sunday, and then the award show was on the Monday night, and I was just shooting, but also amazed, thinking, wow, I'm shooting this, and it's going down this line, and it's going to this person's computer, and they're going to have a presentation. No, I always embraced it and always loved it. It cleared out a lot of people from the industry because they didn't want to transition.
Mm.
And I mean, one of the things that makes it more accessible for people, and there are a lot of people with a really good eye, and so in some ways the sort of the people with a good eye stayed and thrive still, but people didn't have to study for years to learn how to process film and to light things for film properly. So there was a barrier was gone for entry into the industry.
Yeah, I remember my sister when she was doing photography at school and they were doing like the darkroom processing and things like that. And I remember she really enjoyed it. She really enjoyed that sort of artistry to it and being in that room. But then the speed at which you could just take a photo and then have it ready
Yeah.
just was something that was always going to beat out doing that all that sort of old school digital film photography stuff. I think it's
Loved in Brunswick. I saw that there's a community darkroom there as a business,
oh
and I thought
cool.
it's so lovely because it is magic to shoot the image, process the film, and see the image come up in the developing trays. And it's a little bit like baking bread, you know. It's also nice to have the time to stop and slow down
Mm.
and do things you don't need to do, but it's nice to do.
Yeah, I feel like it would be sort of a meditative process now doing
Yeah.
that sort of stuff. And so when it came to your sort of transition into starting Heartfelt, what was it about? So is your experience with loss something that helped, or that not helped, but sort of drove you into starting Heartfelt?
Yeah, because the only experience of loss I had before we lost Alexandra in 2006 was my childhood friend who I grew up with and they were over the back fence. Because of his heritage and his Danish wife's heritage, there was a genetic thing that happened between them, which is rare, very rare. But they had, I think it was 3 or 4 unsuccessful pregnancies and a baby that died very, very young. And he showed me photos of it once, and they were just Polaroids, and they were discolored, and the skin tone was horrible. And I always remember being repulsed, thinking, why would you do that? They took the baby home, they had photos of the baby in their house, and
Mm.
I had a reaction thinking that's repulsive. But that experience gives me compassion for people's reactions to the thought of getting photos taken at their first thought. But then they see what we do, and it's kind of quite beautiful. But when in 2006, we were pregnant with our daughter Alexandra, and we had Harry a year and a half before or so, and that was the easiest pregnancy, easiest birth. We were out of hospital that afternoon. We were down the bottle shop getting champagne after Harry. It was just simple. We had the birth centre in the women's and the incense, and it was all just easy. But with Alexandra, we had I've got a favourite photo of my wife having coffee on Lygon Street. The sun's out. It's just beautiful. But she hates the photo because that's the day we went to hospital and we for a scan and found out that Alexandra wasn't going to live. And we learned those horrible phrases like incompatible with life. It was just a nightmare.
Mm.
But knowing that she wasn't going to live, it just allowed us time to prepare. Like we went and found a beautiful clothing company called Early Birds, who make beautiful little clothes in the quadruple zero, triple zero sizes. So she'd really feel like a girl. And we really thought about it. We thought, well, whatever time Alexandra does have with us, she'll know herself as precious, peaceful, comfortable, and loved. And we organised, to take some photos when she arrived. And we didn't know if she'd be live for an hour or die during birth, but the prospect wasn't because she was going to live very long at all. But we organised for a brother to come in for photos, and it was pretty horrible. The whole experience was really horrible, but one thing we did have was get some beautiful photos, and it sort of shaped our time with her and our experience of it too.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's never an easy process to go through when they tell you that I'm sorry, it's not a good outcome.
Yeah.
And did you find it? Did you always want to take photos, or was it something that you mulled over?
Um,
Um,
it's I didn't plan to, but I just felt natural to, and it also gave me something to do, you know.
mm,
Like afterwards, I threw myself into making a movie, and they sort of spent hours on that, and that was part of my grieving process. But the hospital photographer came and did some photos, and they just didn't take into consideration her skin condition, and they took photos of her on butcher's paper, and it was just a bit brutal. And when the photos arrived, they'd been processed quite contrasty and harsh as well, so they had that flavour of forensic photo to them. They were just brutal. So especially when I saw those compared to the ones I took, I just thought, "Well, geez, we can do better here."
So there's no compassion in the photos that that they took,
Yeah,
sort of.
and I know the photographer, and he's a very compassionate guy, and he's really beautiful. But just that day and that process with the photos just was not good.
Mm.
And we also went to Sids and Kids for counselling, and then we met some other families. And one lady there had a single Polaroid, and that's all she had. And one lady, and I remember her grief to me occurred especially raw after a couple of years, and she had nothing. So she'd gone to an illustrator to get an illustration so she had some representation of a child. And she said one of her greatest fears is forgetting.
Mm.
So it was from that one especially. I thought I'm gonna do something about this, and I'd been president of our commercial photography association for 5 years. So I had a lot of contacts, and I'd also just been very. I was used to organisations, and knew what made them work and what made them fall over. So we sort of went to work on creating something, and there was another organisation I joined. It only lasted about 18 months. And when that folded, about 6 months after that, we sort of established Heartfelt.
Yeah, I think it's really sort of it seems such a universal experience for parents that don't get that didn't get that chance to have those photos where they and we were almost one of them. We were almost
Yeah,
one of those parents where the midwife came in and said to us, like, there's this really great organization. They will come and take photos of you and Billy. And we said no. We just like, no, why would we want to do that? Who would want to take photos of
yeah,
this? Like, this is such a terrible experience for us. And the midwife just said, listen, like, we're going to call them and ask them to come in. You can hate us for it, sort of thing. And we then agreed, like, yeah, we can. That sounds like a good idea now.
yeah,
And I think it was really important that the team at the women's because they had that bereavement team in place and they knew these experiences already.
yeah.
Their recommendation and of that when we were going through a process we couldn't even comprehend, it made such a huge difference. And if we didn't have those photos, we'd only have the iPhone photos that we took,
Yeah.
and it just wouldn't be the same. And like you said, like so many families fear that they're gonna forget what their baby looks like, and then essentially that just means that it'll feel like they didn't exist at all,
Mm,
and that's what so many parents don't want to happen.
mm. It's common because the parents are in such a fog. The hospital
Mm.
explains and says things to them. A couple of times, the mother said to me, "Do you know the baby's dead?" The thing that this want to make sure that they don't know that because they can't understand why anyone would want a photo. But time and time again, we get the feedback years down the track that there's a flavour of it's the most valuable thing we own. This is all we have. The nursery's packed up. This is all we have. So
Mm.
there's a real treasure element to it. And some families they never look at them, but they just got that peace of mind knowing on that box on the shelf is all these beautiful photos of their child. And some people make canvases and put them around their house. So everyone's different, but Monash Uni did a comprehensive study on Heartfelt about memory making and post-traumatic growth. And one of my favourite stats from the research is that 98.8% of bereaved parents would recommend Heartfelt to another bereaved parent. It's
Mm.
like telling us what we already know, but it's just, someone, just telling the next bereaved parent, do it. You never have to look at it, but you will most likely treasure it.
Yeah, you'd rather have them than not have them.
Yeah,
Like even if you never look at them, like as long as you know that they're there, then that's enough. And I
yeah,
was just wondering, like when you first started going out to hospitals and families about this service,
yep,
was there any pushback or like
yeah,
concerns from groups?
yeah. Not from groups. There was always um, we built relationships, with hospitals gradually, and we always just needed one champion. And every hospital's got that one midwife who just wants to go the extra yard for the bereaved families. they're the ones who drive, the care, the clothes, the packs and things like that. But we still came across midwives who just thought it was, rubbish, and their parents should just move on. And that doesn't happen much, thankfully, anymore. But you still get that flavour sometimes. But we've gone from hospitals asking us to take photos of babies in cupboards and out of the way, to a lot of the hospitals now have dedicated bereavement rooms. So the families can spend time with their child away from other babies and other families with healthy live babies. And the care is incredible. And, some teams just go to the next level with what the family wants to do. Like, we had one family who, took their baby to the beach, took their baby through drive-through McDonald's, and took their baby for a picnic. They wanted to kind of create these memories and do things together before they said their final goodbyes. And it's just incredible how the hospital accommodates them.
Yeah, it's really amazing to me that they're able to do that. And I think we're very lucky in the fact that we're in a country that allows that to happen, that it's not some additional charge. Like, I've heard some horror stories from like people in the US that have had a stillborn baby, and then they get hit with a 50 grand bill after the fact because they stayed an extra day with their child, and then a bill for all these other things, and they essentially have to go bankrupt to pay for a life that they sort of never got to have. And
Yeah.
it's really, so and my sister is currently living in New York, and dealing with the medical system there is a bit of a nightmare. So but it's I am lucky that we had that sort of really great care at the women's with the bereavement team there. And
Yeah.
I also find it really interesting. I was recently at the Waves of Change conference
Yeah.
up in Brisbane, and I learnt that they don't do any, like, midwives and nurses don't get any bereavement or like sort of grief training before they become accredited. It's pretty much just thrown in the deep end when it happens.
Yeah.
And I think that's it's amazing to me that they allow that to happen. It feels like an unsafe work practice to me. It's like throwing a midwife into a traumatic situation they've never experienced,
Yeah.
and don't know how to sort of deal with. It's So yeah, when you get a good one, it really makes a huge difference.
Oh yeah. We regularly participate in training days. Probably every 3 months, I think, every 4 months for Eastern Health, and every 6 months or 12 months for Monash. So there's that ongoing training element, but yes, I didn't realize they rarely touched on it. But from our experience, we had a midwife, Sharon Nickrish. But she went on to become a lecturer, and she drove that research study at Monash Uni. So I love how Alexandra. People connect with Alexandra, sort of went off and did good things. And the first person we spoke to at Red Nose was Karen Ludsky, and she went on to head Red Nose years later. So
Yeah, it's amazing the connections you make along the way,
that's right.
creating that
That's right.
legacy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was wondering, how do you manage, like, how was it the first few times taking these photos for other families? How was it for you with your own experiences and your own sort of trauma from that? Was that hard for you to sort of manage at the time, or is it still something that gets you?
No, I anyone with the same condition as Alexandra, I seek them out. I try and because I want to look after them. I go the extra mile for them. And like just a few weeks ago, there was a family with the same condition, and one of their children couldn't make it. So she had a large family, and everyone had a cuddle, but for some reason we didn't get a version of the cuddle with mum. So I ducked back the next day to make sure mum had her version of this cuddle they wanted to have. So I'm drawn to it because I really want to look after them. But I think it's about 50 to 60% of photographers who are heartfelt photographers have had some experience of loss. Some people steer away, like that's just a no-go zone for them, and some people are like me and drawn to it to care. But we create the atmosphere at Heartfelt is like self-care is most important. We want you to self-manage and self-filter for what you do and don't do, and we much prefer to retouch a family's photos from their phones and send a photographer in there where it's going to be detrimental to them.
Oh, so that's an additional service that you guys have where you can sort of touch up their own images from
Yeah, we've got
like as best you can, I guess,
we've,
with those sort of phones.
like over the years, we just come up against problems and then find these solutions. Like one was when we didn't have photographers in certain areas, we thought, oh, wouldn't it be great if each hospital had a good camera? So the family, America's Land was a baby that passed away, and their family's a trucking family. And at their funeral, they raised quite a bit of money. So we spoke to them about, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, this is an idea we've had. We want to provide cameras to hospitals. So we've got this camera kit we supply with the printer. It's an easy to use camera, good close up, good with low light. And now and they cost about $860 each, but we've donated over 260 camera kits to hospitals across the country now. So that's a good plan B if a heartfelt photographer can't get there.
Mm.
And and I love it that the 100th camera kit went to Port Hedland Hospital, and there's tiny hospitals around the country have got good camera gear. So that's one project. Another one is retouching when we can't get there, or family have photos, or even families who've had photos years ago on their own, and then when they want them cleaned up, we can send them to them. We can retouch them for them, and we got another kit project where families sometimes when we go in there, kids have had their handprints and footprints done, and if they got the ink which leaves a residue, in the photos it looks like really bad bruising. So we found a product which you can do inkless prints, so they can still do the prints, but there's no residue on their hands. And that came out of a guy doing the Sydney Marathon and raising a couple of $1,000. So we created that project. So all little projects on the side.
It's amazing the amount of sort of drive that can happen when all these people are impacted by the same sort of thing, like with losing a baby.
Yeah,
It's so many people that I know in this space, even a lot of the people that were at the conference last week, a lot of them were there because they've personally been impacted, not just because they're in that profession. This is now driving them to help and make a change. And yeah, it's good to see that it seems to be to me that the community is growing a lot more.
yep,
I remember 6 years ago when we lost Billy, I was hard pressed to find another dad online to talk to about what I was going through.
yeah,
And now there's literally resources for dads specifically to manage the loss of losing their baby.
yeah.
So it's really great to see. And
I mean,
I think
the dad's a tough ones to crack. Like there
mm,
was like Gary's, I think it's Gary Sillett in Sydney. He created this thing called Pillars of Strength, and all it was a organisation that arranged tickets and a structure for you to invite invite your bereaved mate to. Didn't have to talk, but it's just like invite him to the footy, invite him to the cricket, and so there's an easy way to get them along and get them out into the community.
mm.
And it was, the dads are tough. And I remember them saying at Red Nose they have these dad weekends to go fishing and things. And it was like quite often there's just no chat, just like being together,
Yeah.
you know. And that was a nice thing. You're free to be however you were.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that when I've had people ask like, "Oh, how do we get more dads involved into this space?" And I said,
Yeah,
you can't just expect the dad to do the same thing that the mums are doing. So they're not
yeah,
going to sit opposite you and open up. They
yeah,
need something else. There needs to be a third thing for them to be doing,
yeah,
which is why like those the men's sheds and things like that work so well. Where they're not looking face to face. They're next to each other, hammering away or something, and one
yeah,
of them will eventually just say, "Oh, this happened to me this week," and then they all start talking about it,
yeah.
and before they know it, they build a boat.
Yeah. Yep. But one of the things I love about the new photographers is, there's all this worry. They're worried about doing a good job. Will they be able to handle themselves? Will they get too emotional? Will they remember to do everything? Will they take too long and the family will expire and say, look, that's enough before they get all the photos they think that they'd be good to get? But when it happens for everyone, but and it can happen in the small ways. But they'll eventually get a message, or they'll get just a gentle touch on the shoulder, which really, have this profound connection. But there's always this moment where they get they profoundly get what they're doing and what it is to be invited into a family's time like this, to give them this gift. And like we're one of the first non-medical people that the families usually see, and half the service is that when the families, life has been turned upside down, a stranger drops everything and comes in to do something kind.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting feeling because when they walk in, this is the first person, you don't know who they are. They're coming to take photos of the most
Yeah,
precious thing in your life. You're always a bit hesitant
yeah,
for, like, I didn't, there were even some people from my family I didn't even want to come into the room because of how sacred this space was.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so it's, I understand it could be, it can be quite confronting for the photographers to come in, especially when you're there to capture images. And,
yeah,
but once, yeah, I think once you realize that what they're there to do and you understand like the compassion that they're giving, it's not it's not as hard to allow them to direct you on how to
yeah,
hold the baby, how to hold your baby, and you know change the clothes and put this here. And
yeah,
it's and I think it's really important that they understand that what they're doing is such a important job, and
mm,
that even if the parents at the time don't feel like they're giving you much back, I'm
yeah,
sure that they'll be, when they're looking at photos a couple of weeks down the line, they'll be like, "Oh, we're so glad that they came to do that
yeah.
for us."
Like what feedback we get from the parents sometimes, like it's a distraction, from all the stuff that's happening. It's a distraction when someone's just gently guiding you. Okay, do you want to maybe hold the baby's hand now, and do you want to give a cuddle? Do you want dad to give a cuddle? Or sometimes they bathe the baby, and you can see the parents get lost in it sometimes, and all of a sudden in some of the photos they're just parents. You know,
Mm.
you can't tell what room they're in. It's just parents loving their child, which is really lovely to capture. And it's lovely to give the families that moment where they're distracted from everything, and all it is just the family together.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a really good point. That's it. I think that is why the memory of our photos are so strong, is because that was probably the only time we weren't thinking, this is it. This is the only time we're going to see her
Yeah,
after we walk out of this room, that she's gone, sort of thing.
yeah,
And yeah, I never thought of it like that before, but yeah, it definitely makes sense. And I think that's I feel like a lot of parents would feel that way.
yeah.
Is, so was there anything unexpected that you found when you first started uh, taking these photos for families,
Oh,
or anything that?
just how common it is. Like
Mm,
in I think it's 2018. We looked after 1,700 families, and after COVID, we were sort of balancing between 1,400, 1,500 families a year. It's just so many. And behind each of those numbers is this whole world of pain. Um, and like I think at the end of May, we were up to 19,000, I think 300 people we've given the gift of photos to, which is just incredible. And it's just so lovely that these big-hearted photographers have, found Heartfelt and, use us as a vehicle to express their, generosity. We're just so grateful. But I like it. There's an element of I like it because there's it sounds a bit odd, but there's something not nice about feeling that rawness that keeps me close to Alexandra as well. You
mm,
know, it's and I keep checking in myself, thinking, when is that enough? Is it time to give it, hand it on? But no, I was still as passionate about it and driven and really feel it still after all these years. Like it's like Alexandra's 2006, so it's coming up to 19, 20 years now. So it's a long time, but it's still,
mm.
still still there. So the passion for it, looking after these families is still there. There's still always going to be a need for us.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think I feel the same way with uh, what I'm doing now with Room 11. It's keeping me sort of it's that same feeling I got when we were in the room, where I had tasks to do to make sure that that everything was going right. Like I
Yeah,
was making sure that my wife was okay, managing the family coming in and out. Uh, then we went home, organizing the funeral and stuff. And it was when all of that stopped happening and we weren't, and Billy was gone. That's when things started to spiral
yeah,
out for me. And so this has sort of given me sort of a conduit to sort of put all of that energy into.
yep,
And yeah, so I completely understand that. I think it's it's an interesting thing that there's certain ways that people grieve, and some people like us, and I spoke about this with Sam Payne as well, that they proactively do something with their grief. They build something with
yeah,
out of it.
yeah.
And there's another thing I asked about Sam Payne that I'd like to ask you as well, is that how do you manage your own grief and loss when it's so intertwined with the work that you're doing?
Um, like what the thing I have never been able to shake is that life is uncertain. Life is unpredictable. But I've really got to manage myself to allow things to be, like, just acknowledge the feeling,
Mm.
and let it go. Like, with when like, I've got three boys, so they do crazy stuff, and even when they were small on the playground, doing jumping off, taking these risks and things. I mean, I hold my breath more than other parents, just
Mm.
because it's such a real experience and things go bad. But you just got to allow manage myself and allow them to be. And it's horrible. It's really
Mm.
horrible. And people around me don't know what's going on in my head. But you've just got to let the kids make their errors, and you possibly get injured and those sorts of things. But you can't protect them. But it's just that one thing that shows up for me is that I just know it's very real that life's unpredictable.
Yeah, and I 100% agree. I think our son, so he's almost 4, and I find that I'm always, whenever he's doing something that I have to stop myself from going, be careful, or don't do that, don't backflip off that thing. Like it's always I I but I know that if we hadn't have lost Billy, I just would have been like, oh, he'll be right. Like he'll be fine. But
Yeah,
now
yeah,
I'm always thinking about the worst case scenario because I know that
yeah,
it can go really, really bad.
yeah,
And yeah, so trying to control those decisions to just
yeah,
let him be and let him learn on his own. And I know that if I keep like if I stop him from doing things or try and massage him into doing something else, it's it's only going to be a detriment to his sort of development. But
yeah.
I get you. It's hard to sort of let that lie.
Yes, yeah, but also with organisations, I've seen a lot of organisations come and go, and one of the reasons the first organisation fell over was become as one person's expression of grief. So, with Heartfelt, I was very careful to set up. It's very thin management, but if I fell over, everything's in place. There's structures in place. There's people know how to do things. There's a simple way to manage things that it's easily replaced. So, um, you know, it's an interesting world, the bereaved support area, and we've been very, very careful about how we occur as well, because we don't want to polarize anyone. We want to never give anyone a reason not to call us. So we're very simple with our language, very simple the way we communicate things. We're very, very private with the photos, just so people would never hesitate thinking, oh, well, I get Heartfelt, well, I don't know where my photos will go. So we're I mean, and a lot of people ask us to collaborate and all sorts of things, but we usually just keep down the middle of the road because we never want to deviate from what we do,
Mm.
and just we're very very mindful of polarizing people. Like early on, we had a photographer who initiated a hug with a family, And the social worker was like shocked and think, mate, and just thinking that's not your place. And they didn't call us for a long time because they thought we weren't very professional. So the trust that we
Oh.
had can be just disappear very easily. Um, but there's we kind of work hard, take nothing for granted, and just always provide the best service we can, and keep us and give. No matter what circumstances people come to us in, there'll always be find a way to look after them if they fit our criteria. Like it's
Mm.
like there's things like medical terminations and things like that. People um, you know, get odd about, but we just think if it's their family, we'll look after them. Whatever reason people come to us, if they fit our criteria, we'll find a way to look after them.
And so how do you usually get the hospitals reaching out to you more, or is it the families that are starting
Any
to reach out now?
anyone can contact us. Well, one thing we do is we try and have a lot of media articles. Firstly, to raise awareness, and secondly, to have people who've experienced a loss feel less alone and make it like a more normal conversation. Like we just had a feature article in the Sydney Morning Herald and The Age, and I mean the same week, the Danny and Daniel on the block shared about
Mm.
their experience with Billy, and they sort of mentioned us as well. So so we sort of try and have a lot of reach, but anyone can contact us, but the family's got to want us there. Those conversations have got to be had. We will never contact a family. We
Yeah.
need the family or support people to mention it to it and flag, just raise it with them and see if it's something they want to do.
And so how do you go about finding the the photographers, the volunteer photographers?
Well, can you help
Do
us?
they come to you? Because you think you've got over 300 now, don't you?
We
Then
got we got
across
about
Australia?
we got about 330, and
Yeah.
every state's the same. There's a larger group of members, and there's a core group who does most of the sessions. But we're just trying to find those unicorns who are available, big-hearted, incredibly skilled, and great with people. Like one of our busiest photographers in Melbourne is a retired tax accountant who loves projects and loves doing things. He's a beautiful photographer, beautiful man, and he's very available. so so we've been around for so long. Photographers have joined, they've gone, had families, and then they've come back. But like I always thought everyone would be a professional photographer, but probably two-thirds are just highly skilled amateurs. There's
Mm.
who work with this, which are just pretty amazing. Like it was a bit funny, this article in The Age. We had the New South Wales rep, and she's a full-time photographer now, but she used to be an accountant. They spoke to our treasurer, who's a beautiful photographer. She's an accountant. And they also interviewed Ken, this retired tax accountant. So I was like, the journalist was saying, so what is it about accountants? That,
Yeah.
I think that's not the message I want to get out.
That
But
is interesting.
like we have a lot of information sessions, trying to find the right people. Try and tap people on the shoulder if we think they'd be good. Like in times gone by, when we had a request, say in regional Victoria, we search and look for photographers with sensitivity in their work and just give them a call. But it's always one of our challenges is keeping attracting the right sort of photographers. And if you ask the wrong way, you get the wrong sort of photographer. Like one photographer at a baby photography summit got up on stage and said, "We're desperate. We need you. We need your help. We've got no photographers to do these sessions." So then you got all these photographers volunteering to help us rather than help the families. And
Mm.
when everything how they operated was like they were doing us a favor, and it's just not the right way. We want people who are committed to making a difference to another human.
Yeah, yeah, it's finding the right people that will be able to be in that room and have that compassion.
Yeah.
It's yeah, I'd imagine it's quite quite a task. This episode of the Room 11 podcast is proudly supported by Musashi, trusted by athletes across Australia for high-performance supplements, protein powders, and nutrition that actually works. I use it. I hope you use it too. They've kindly offered our listeners an exclusive discount. Just use the code 1130 at checkout on musashi.com to get 30% off your next order. Feel free to share it around. That's 1130 at musashi.com. ELEVEN 30. I'll do my best to try and find some more photographers for you.
Yes, all your photographers out there,
Yeah.
practice your lighting and come and see us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so if you weren't in photography, so what would you be an engineer, you think?
I would have loved being an engineer. I love building big things. My brother's an architect, and a bit envious about the results of his work are massive, big buildings. And it's all about problem solving and using maths and science. And I would have loved it. I mean, I'm very very happy with photography. Although some of my engineering friends have got their massive mansion, their beach house, their house at the snow, and their European holidays. But I'm more satisfied, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you made the right choice. I think you've impacted quite. I don't even know how many families you would have impacted with the photos that you guys are taking, and
Yeah.
it's really special. And if you had an 8 ball,
Yeah.
what would you ask it? Where would you think you'd be? Heartfelt would be in 5 to 10 years. What's your goals?
Um, I'd love if we had a pathway for people who've got the heart for it, who don't have the skills, but there was a pathway where they could train up and get to the level they need to be. And we've got one of our members just trying a few online photography course and pathways just to see how good they are for getting the skill level up pretty quickly. I mean, I'm someone who went to uni for 3 years, and there's some fundamentals which you can only get from experience. But I'd love us to be able to capture those people who want to help but just don't have the skill yet. That'd be great. And just keep finding those incredibly big-hearted people to volunteer. There's I mean, ideally it'd be good not to be used, really. It'd be good. The ideal would be we were never never needed.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that a lot of people in this area would love to not have to work in it. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. But that'd be ideal. Just that just kind of relieve that bottleneck of the photographer workload.
I think. Do you do any when you give these cameras out to the hospitals? Do you have training or
Yep.
show them how to use it? Is it like a DSLR sort of camera that
No,
you
no,
give them out?
it's a point and shoot with macro setting and things. But we've got an online tutorial about how to use it, and also a cheat sheet, an A5, photos to take to help make make the photos nicer.
Oh, that's cool. Make it easy for them. I think
Yeah.
the simpler it is, the more it'll get done, I think.
Yeah, and during COVID, we found some incredible photographers in the NICUs and the birth suite. So it's really lovely to see. Some angles we'd never seen before from any of our photographers. Oh, that's amazing.
Should start recruiting them to.
I know. We've had obstetricians before. We've had lots of midwives. I mean, one of our longest members are midwife at one of the Brisbane hospitals.
Yeah, I'd imagine you would have a lot of crossover, wouldn't you? For midwives that would understand the experience and
Yeah.
know how to manage it whilst being able to take photos would be an ideal volunteer for you, I'd imagine.
Yeah, being at home in that environment is a big plus.
So would you say for someone that now has heard this and wants to get involved, they
Yep.
just head to the Heartfelt website
Yep.
to get in touch?
Yep, there's a information there about what's required to apply, and it's all pretty easy on the Heartfelt website at www.heartfelt.org.au.
Awesome. And they would have their own camera ideally?
Oh yeah, they
and
need their
gear.
own camera. You need to understand how to process photos
Yeah.
and understanding of lighting because it's you got one chance. So
You can't just use the inbuilt filters on your phone.
although although the iPhone is my favorite camera,
Yeah,
they're,
it's my
they're
most
pretty
used camera.
amazing. They're pretty amazing.
Well, I think I think it's really great to have you on. It's really important the work that you're doing, and I really appreciate it. And anything that I can do to help you guys, even get photographers, or even just help share your message, yeah, I'm more than happy to get involved in any way I can.
Oh, thank you. It's lovely to share a bit about our story and things like that. Is there anything else you want to know about us? Any questions, left field questions you thought of?
Because I did have one about whether you carry your camera all the time, but I think you just answered it with your iPhone.
A lot of photographers have their heartfelt camera kit just in their car all the time, and like a go bag for
Mm.
quick responses.
Yeah, well, I'd imagine you'd have to get up and go at a moment's notice.
Yeah, I've realised there's a feature on Facebook that shares memories for the heartfelt page. I hadn't noticed it before, and I look back like 10 years ago. It's very similar. Wow, we had to put out a message, and the photographer got on site within an hour. Photographer drove 2 hours to a session. That's amazing. It's amazing. So it's just beautiful. It's been consistent for so long.
Mm.
All these people are really bending over backwards to find a way to make a family's experience that just that little bit easier.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think if anyone's listening that they have the passion and the drive and the camera and the skills, like reach out to Heartfelt because there are families out there that will really appreciate having those memories created for them.